Prepare yourself for the terror. The prison of madness, where few enter and none return.
Welcome to Unsung Horrors. With Lance. And Erica.
Leave all your sanity behind. It can't help you now.
Welcome to another episode of Unsung Horrors, the podcast where we discuss underseen horror films, specifically those with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. I'm Lance.
I'm Erica.
And Erica, how's your Junesploitation going?
It's going well. I'm not going in order at all. I'm sure.
Same.
I'm very proud of our people in Discord who are actively sharing every single day, because I am not, and I'm sorry.
No, I'm in the same boat. I mean, anytime that I have, I'm trying to watch one of the Junesploitation movies lately. So yeah. I am jumping in and reading everybody's comments and what they're watching.
Yes. And
it's a blast. It's been my favorite part of Junesploitation.
Yeah, adding stuff to my watch list based on like what other folks are watching. And yeah, I'm jumping all over the place. I am on track to finish on time, maybe even early, because got some other stuff happening. But yeah, it's going well. But what you got over there, Lance?
Oh, well, I have a box here that was it had my name with a little bow on it when I walked in. And it is the Dreamstalker Blu-ray, my contribution copy.
Yes.
Because, we did the visual essay for it. And I have it in my hand for the first time ever. Yeah. From TerraVision. Very excited about this.
Are you going to retire your DVD or are you going to keep it?
Oh, I'm going to keep the DVD because it's the double feature from Intervision, I think it is. Oh,
that's right.
It has that. I watched it. It was terrible. I think it's called Love Bites, if I remember. I think it's filmed in Dallas, if I remember, too. It's a Texas production. Giving Texas a good name.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is gorgeous.
I love
Visual All Jocks Are Bastard by Lance Schibi and Erica Schultz of someone's favorite productions. Where's the Unsung Horrors podcast? No, I was kidding.
I know. No, it's fine.
No, I'm very excited. I love that cover still. I think I've said that numerous times, but that slipcover is probably the best ever.
Yeah. We'll have a link in show notes to where you guys can pick it up from TerraVision. They are actually doing free international shipping this month. So any folks who are outside the US, you should take advantage of that. Not just Dreamstalker, but stock up if you're getting free shipping. So
hey, real quick, watch this. There's a beautiful TerraVision sticker included with the ghost. I'm going to put it on my laptop right now.
Oh, okay. Representing.
Yeah, I have no stickers on this laptop at the moment.
I have one sticker on my laptop, and is my Severin sticker that covers my Apple on the back.
Will this cover my Apple? It will.
Ooh, there you go. You now have a TerraVision laptop instead of a MacBook.
Woo!
Nice.
Look at that. We will be posting pictures of this all over the social medias because it looks...
You wooed, so you made Piper bark. Hey,
sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, we're going to keep talking so Piper will just get back to attacking her.
Yes, thank you. Piper wants her contributor copy.
She can have mine. She's tougher than me. Okay, so I already brought up Junesploitation, and this pick, I've already mentioned, does work for a few of the themes. New World Pictures release, 80s horror.
Yes.
I think it'll work as a slasher.
Yes.
Arguably.
Yes, I'd give it that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously free space, but the film we are going to discuss, Torment, from 1986.
This is a place
I'm not going out there.
where something is very, very wrong. Where no one is above suspicion.
Father's a very dangerous man.
Your mother's been acting really weird.
Where the difference between what is real and what is imagined
I said there was a man in my room!
becomes deadly.
That's the man that tried to kill me this afternoon. There's something wrong with your mother. She's making things up.
You're a liar.
And the biggest mistake you can make is trusting someone you love. Now, Every shadow, every footstep, every sound brings you closer and closer to the edge. If the suspense doesn't get you, the terror will.
You want to play chicken?
Torment.
So if you're scrambling to finish any of those 30 categories, go for it. Use this. If you're not even participating in Junesploitation, you can watch Torment whenever the fuck you want.
Yeah. Maybe wait for a better copy to surface somewhere.
It's true.
This one's rough.
It is on YouTube. I had mentioned the audio's jacked up. It's one speaker. It has Spanish subtitles burned in. It's kind of tough to watch.
Not the worst that we've ever done, but it was a tough, not the best quality. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I hope there is a Blu-ray release out there from a couple of years ago, but I want somebody to re-release this.
They need some special features. There's plenty of people around still that can talk about this movie.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about that because people have been doing cast and crew have been doing interviews with this, so we'll share some of that info. And then when they do have a release, maybe we'll do some of the special features. Okay, so Torment. It's about a serial killer named Bob who's murdering people in San Francisco. And Michael Cortland, the detective on the case, he's getting married soon. And unfortunately, he has to cancel a scheduled trip to visit his wheelchair-bound mother, Mrs. Cortland, at his childhood home. So his fiancée, Jennifer, goes alone to meet and stay with his very strong-willed, abrasive mother. And while there, Bob the killer seemingly knows that Michael is getting close to crack the case and find him. So he arrives at Michael's childhood home and goes after his handicapped mother and his young fiancée. Why he's there, reasons unknown, but there is a surprising twist when the killer arrives, and it's revealed that we are going to spoil. So beware. Like I said, it's on it's on YouTube. Currently has 253 views on Letterboxd. It's a rough coffee, but it's good enough to enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay, Torment. It's directed and produced and written by John Hopkins and Samson Aslanian. And this is the only film that each of them have directed, but they do have a few credits in other production roles. So Hopkins was the assistant director, and he co-wrote the goofy horror film The Power from 1984, which I enjoyed more than you.
Yeah, I watched this a few years ago for the old podcast, and I hated it. And I think a big part of me hating it was I hated Jerry. And so when I turned this on, my first reaction when Warren Lincoln showed up, I was like, God fucking damn it, Jerry from The Power's in this.
Yeah, it's true. Jerry from The Power he plays Michael, the detective in Torment. Actually, we'll find out that there's a lot of cross between of cast and crew from The Torment and The Power. Yeah, and a bunch of all these other movies. I liked it. It does have a child kill in it, The Power.
Yeah.
Doesn't show it, but
it's off screen, yeah. And I completely forgot about that because it was off screen. So no, it's not in the book, but it is on the even more child kills list on Letterboxd. But yeah, my problem with this movie, it's not the premise, because I think it's a decent enough premise, as basic as it is. I don't like any of the characters. There's nobody that's likable. I'm not rooting for anyone. I don't fucking care about anybody in this movie.
It's true, but I do think Jerry, I think he's acting his brains out.
Yeah,
I think he's doing really well.
But that doesn't make me like him.
Well, I think he's written as his scumbag character. And that's I do get it. There, if you're turned off and you hate everybody that's on screen, it's not going to be an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I don't care if this little, Aztec doll idol thing makes his face melt off. Who cares?
Well, it turns him into a dick-nosed demon. He kind of has a Dan Aykroyd or something.
What's the movie? It's the dick nose is an insult. Teen Wolf, right? What do you look? Isn't that his T-shirt on Styles' T-shirt? What are you looking at, Dick Nose?
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
man, I want that shirt.
That's an easy one to make.
Yeah,
it's like the what's the T-shirt that? What did I watch? You saw it too. It was a button, but I wanted to make a T-shirt, and it said "Necrophilia is a dying art."
Oh,
what was that from?
I remember. Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, The Power. To me, it felt like I get why people don't enjoy it. I mean, I think I rated it like 3 stars. But to me, it felt like, like when you're really stoned or drunk or just kind of, chemically imbalanced at the moment and just in a good mood, and you talk and you're with a group of friends and you're talking about something stupid, something like, you're breaking down, like, let's break down Pearl Jam's Vitology album or something. And you're talking about like the lyrics and the production of it and the involved musicians. And then you look at your watch and you're like, holy shit, we've been talking about this for 2 hours. What the fuck am I doing with our lives? Let's get on with it.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt with The Power. I was like really into it. And then at the end, I was like, I'm wasting my time here. Let's wrap this up. Like, the wife's going to get pissed. I got shit to do. Like, I don't know. I did enjoy The Power, but it did. At one point, I hit a wall and I realized this isn't great. But overall, I enjoyed it. Okay, so John Hopkins, he also co-wrote Dunstan Checks In.
Yeah.
Starring Faye Dunaway, Jason Alexander, Rupert Everett, and Sam the Orangutan. I've never seen this. I couldn't find it streaming anywhere.
That's why I didn't watch it. Otherwise, I would have.
Yeah.
That's how dedicated I am to this podcast, y'all. I would have watched Dunstan Checks In for research for this podcast. But you know what? It's not streaming anywhere. Fucking library didn't even have it. I was like, I'm out.
Oh, you even looked at the library?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm out.
Yeah, it has Paul Rubens in it. I mean, I definitely want to check this out at some point. But yeah, same boat. It's not anywhere available. So I'll just wait. Hopkins also wrote a TV movie drama called Stranger in Town from 1998, starring Harry Hamlin and the great Graham Greene. It's about a mysterious drifter who comes to town and strange events start occurring, including murder. I did not watch that.
Oh, I was like, did you watch I
think it's on Tubi. I think it's on Tubi, but I was a little late to get that in. And then he was the assistant director on The Dorm That Dripped Blood from 1982, directed by Stephen Carpenter and Jeffrey Obrow, who also directed The Power as well as The Kindred in 1987. And let me get to the other director, because we're going to be talking about Steve Carpenter and Jeff Obrow here in a bit too, because they're all buddies, friends. They all met. I read in an interview that they all met at UCLA. Jeff Obrow was a teacher's assistant. And him, I guess I'll just start jumping into it. Him and Stephen Carpenter, they kind of already had plans to make like low budget horror movies. And then they met Hopkins and the other director, Samson Aslanian, in school. And then they all kind of teamed up and made these movies together. Yeah. So there's a lot of cross credits. They all did like different stuff on each movie.
Yeah. The editors too are in that mix of like the Obrow Productions. New World Pictures podcast actually has a fun interview with the editors, Earl Gaffari, John Penny, and Brett Shelton. And so Earl Gaffani, he's got tons of credits as a music editor, mostly like Disney stuff. And he was the editor on The Kindred. John Penny was a co-writer of The Kindred. But Earl Gaffari also edited one movie we've brought up before, Grim Prairie Tales.
Oh, nice.
And randomly, Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I mean, he's in LA, so I mean, he probably knows the scene.
Yeah,
maybe.
I would imagine during that time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had read too that the editors, they all had a bunch of other projects going on. Torment is very low budget. It was made for $160,000. But all the editors, they worked hard. There's 3 of them.
Yeah. And
Sam Aslanian had said that they cut a bunch of the dramatic portions of the film that lead up to before kind of the action starts. So I loved what they did with the film. I think it moves along just boom, 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 boom.
You've got to love an 80-minute movie.
Yeah, you do. Those are always the best picks.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So Sam Aslanian, the other director, like I said, shares a lot of the same credits as Hopkins. He was the production manager on both The Power and The Dorm That Dripped Blood. But he mainly produced music videos and compilation releases, including productions for U2, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Madonna, Nine Inch Nails, Alice in Chains, and Janet Jackson. But he retired from the music industry in 2005, and he now works as a photographer. And I found one of his books online called Perspective Napa Valley.
Oh, boy.
Which includes a lot of like
grapes.
A lot of grapes. Some of the example photos. A lot of photographs, obviously, of grapes and beautiful California landscapes and essays about the history involved with Napa Valley. I ordered you a copy for your birthday, so get ready.
Wow, thanks.
The cinematographer for Torment, again, another buddy we already mentioned, Stephen Carpenter, was the DP, and he directed The Dorm That Drew Blood, The Power. He also created the NBC fantasy drama television series Grimm, which ran for like 8 or so years.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, he definitely had a successful career in television. But like we said, they're all buddies. They all met at UCLA, like I mentioned. John Hopkins and Sam Aslanian were actually roommates during college, and that's when they decided to write this movie. It was apparently the big twist was Jeff Obrow's idea, and that he kind of pitched like this idea that he had, and then Hopkins and Aslanian wrote the script around that.
Okay.
So interesting stuff. He did say, Aslanian said that they would work day jobs or go to class all day, stay up all night writing Torment, but they really took inspiration from early Alfred Hitchcock Presents episodes, and also using a handicapped woman in a large house, single location setting. You know, using that template, they pulled a lot of inspiration, he said, from a Terrence Young film from 1967 called Wait Until Dark, starring Audrey Hepburn as the blind woman.
Yeah, that came up. I think it was on the list too, because Adam brought up in his review that Klon has a list of wheelchair horror.
I did look at that. I love that list.
Yeah, I do too. I love. You know what, people? Klon makes the best lists on Letterboxd. He really does.
Yeah, and he has a lot. Like, you should go through him. You need to follow him, and that is a great list. Yeah. I think that was on it. And Aslanian also said that the 1971 Mia Farrow film, See No Evil. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of similarities there. I think we'll be talking about more of these women in peril horror films here in a bit. And then lastly, of course, the original score by the great Christopher Young, who also did the score for The Power.
Christ.
But yeah, I liked his score here. It's one of his earlier horror films. But yeah, he's tied to some of the great, New World stuff.
Yeah.
New Order. I keep saying New World Order. I keep thinking of New World Order.
Oh my God, what is wrong with you?
New World Pictures. Yeah, Christopher Young's the greatest.
Yeah, he was a Horror Gives Back category not too long ago.
He was.
Yeah.
Yes. And now I can scratch Torment off the list.
Yeah, I think aside from maybe a few of the Italian composers, he's probably my most watched composer? Yeah. I'd have to look at it.
Yeah.
But I think he's up. He's definitely, if I discount Italian, he's definitely going to be in top 5, maybe top 3.
Yeah, I'm probably right there with you too. Because, he does, other than horror movies, there's so many other movies he does, Spider-Man and stuff. Okay, so the cast. This is mainly a single location movie, so minimal characters, really only 4 key cast members. Your favorite, or no, I'm going to start with Taylor Gilbert, who plays Jennifer. She's the fiance who stays with the wheelchair-bound mother during the movie. She has some acting credits in some big-time Hollywood films. And perhaps because she's married to a big-time Hollywood producer. That's, she's a great actress, but Ian Bruce is her husband. So she pops up in a lot of movies that he produced, mainly small roles, but, Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. She plays Mary Jane's mom in those movies. Mm. She's in Twister. She's in The Rocketeer. She's in Hancock. More recently, she's been doing television series work. But yeah, she's got some pretty big Hollywood titles tied to her.
Titles, but like the roles are they're not even on Letterboxd because that's not even.
They're not. Yeah, they're not on Letterboxd. Everything was on IMDb.
Right.
Her Mary Jane mother, I forgot her mom's name, Margaret or something, but that's kind of, I think in the first one, it's just to speak like a voiceover role, but in the second one, she plays like her sickly kind of mean mom. I don't know.
I don't remember Spider-Man movies, so I'll take your word for it, but.
Hey, let's get to your favorite actor. The detective, Jennifer's fiance, Michael, played by the great Warren Lincoln. I already mentioned, or we did, he stars in The Power as Jerry. The Dick-nosed demon.
Jerry! God.
I felt that he was acting his brains out. I was impressed by him, but yeah, he's a dick character.
Yeah, and like, it doesn't help that whatever the lead woman's name in The Power was, she's always like, if your drinking game is anytime she says his name, you're gonna die of alcohol poisoning. Jerry, I'm like, God, shut up! I hate everyone in that movie.
Everybody should watch it. 80s horror for Junesploitation. But yeah, he has 2 movie credits.
Yeah.
Torment.
No one else would hire him except for his friends.
I mean, I'm going to say he's had a consistently solid career. 2 for 2. Well done, Warren Lincoln, wherever you are.
Jeez.
Okay, now let's get to the scene stealers of the movie. Michael's mother, Mrs. Cortland, is played by Eve Brenner. She only has a handful of feature film credits, but mostly all of her work are small roles in television series. Pretty much every major show you can think of from the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s. She pops up in stuff like Murder, She Wrote, Quantum Leap, The Bold and the Beautiful, Doogie Howser, MD, Murphy Brown, Baywatch, Seinfeld, The X-Files, Chicago Hope.
Your favorite.
Also ER.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this bitch. Pick one, actors.
That should be like a conflict of interest.
Yeah, it should be in the contract. Like the first one, if you're in ER, in the contract says you can't do Chicago Hope.
Non-compete clause in there, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Silk Stockings. I'm going to keep going. Days of Our Lives, Grey's Anatomy. I mean, I could go on and on. Her television series, like acting roles, are off the chain. She was in that great TV movie called Strays about killer cats.
I've been wanting to see this forever, and then when I was looking at her credits, I saw that on there, and I was reminded of it, and I was like, "Damn it! Wish I would have looked her up sooner, so I would have made time for Strays this week because I love me some cats killing people movies, folks."
Yeah, she's great in it. She plays just the old woman.
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah, I saw her credit was old woman, and I was like, okay, well.
I think that's a lot of her credit titles, like old woman, like crazy old woman on train, something. But yeah, Strays, I watched that a few years ago. I love Kathleen Quinlan, too, who stars in it. It's a great movie. I recommend it. And then I watched, which I had never seen, which Brenner provided the voice to the Mouse Queen in Disney's The Great Mouse Detective from 1986.
Oh, that's why you watched that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically an animated mouse Sherlock Holmes episode, pulling inspiration from the 30s, 40s Sherlock Holmes, the best Sherlock Holmes of Basil Rathbone.
Of course.
They also used archival footage or archival voice work from Basil, and Sherlock Holmes the man pops up, and they use some of that.
That's neat.
And then Vincent Price, he voices the main villain, Rattigan, and he's losing his mind. I loved it.
Okay.
Yeah, people watch it. But yeah, Eve Brenner, she is the star of Torment, and we'll talk more about her. She's still alive, 98 years old.
Damn.
Yeah, and she had credits from, I guess, about 5 or so years ago. So I'd hire her. I'd put her in a movie with Warren Lincoln. Okay, and lastly, we have the serial killer played by William Witt, who this is his only movie credit. He did apparently have a small role in a TV episode from a series in 1949 called Studio One in an episode titled Two Sharp Knives. So he must have been like 19 or so. Mm-hmm. I was very intrigued by this actor, William Witt, because he reminded me of like a psycho Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
Like physically, he looked like that. And he acts with so much emotion, screams like a fucking maniac.
That was like when he first popped up on screen, my first note was like, who does he look like? And then about halfway through, I was like, Jerry Lewis.
Yeah. As soon as he popped up, I was like, is that fucking Jerry Lewis? But I found an old interview with director Samson Aslanian, and he explained that, the nameless killer, which is Bob, this was the last role to fill, and they were having a difficult time finding an actor. And he remembered his old high school drama teacher from high school, Mr. Witt, who was a huge inspiration on him. He got him into theater. He basically wanted him to become a director, kind of treated him he considered him a mentor. So he drove up to San Francisco to show William Witt the script. And he said that Witt looked at it, read it, and he's like, this is a piece of crap, but I'll do it. And what's funny, too, is he also pulled in his wife to act in Torment. Mrs. Cortland's housekeeper, Helen, who's murdered. That's William Witt's real wife.
Oh, okay.
And Aslanian said that, that's a spoiler alert, obviously, but William had a little too much fun in that scene. He had a lot of fun killing his wife in real life. So in this interview, he provided a lot of production information. I forgot where I read the interview from, but it was kind of all over the place. But yeah, some details on the production of Torment real quick. I already mentioned it cost $160,000 to make, that they got funding from friends and family. Very low budget. They cut costs any way they could, even using Aslanian's parents' house in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. That's his parents' home in that single location where Mrs. Cortland lives. They used a little bit of location trickery involving like a tiny matte painting, transported that house. It makes it look like it's isolated, but it's actually like in a suburb. It's like a real busy neighborhood. So really well done there. He said they shot and they slept in the house. They had a kind of a ballroom thing in the basement they rented a bunch of cots, and the crew members kind of all, not the cast, but pretty much the crew members kind of all just slept there while they would shoot periodically. Okay. And his dad did all the food and catering for him. They initially planned 10 days of shooting, but everybody was kind of involved in their own projects. So they would shoot sporadically, very piecemeal in like 3-day segments and stuff. And then like try and schedule like, okay, well, let's come back and shoot 3 more days in 3 weeks. So it took a bit of time, not a whole lot of shooting days, but because of everybody's schedule and how low budget it is, it just took a long time to shoot. But he said that he and Hopkins were very pleased that they were able to finish the film. They worked really well together. He said that Aslanian said that he worked more on the technical aspects of filming, the tracking shots, the establishing shots, and Hopkins worked much better with the actors and the performances. So they both kind of worked together on a lot of the same things, but he found that the specialties were those areas. Mm-hmm. In that, New World Pictures, like you said, they ended up purchasing Torment for $400,000, and they kind of butchered the marketing completely. The poster, though, is amazing that they made. Yeah. I love how Torment, the O's her eye, and it almost looks like she has a second eyeball underneath her other eye. It looks awesome. But Aslanian and Hopkins, they were completely cut out of creative decisions, and New World kind of spoiled the twist on every video box release on the back, every summary that's out there. And then they came up with the terrible tagline, "If the suspense doesn't get you, the terror will." And Boo. Sam Aslanian just hated that. But one other fun fact that I found is that Aslanian and Hopkins were offered to meet with Universal to discuss directing Psycho 3 together after this, but they declined the meeting, and they immediately began like developing their own original script that they had ideas for something that never got made. So, and he did say like, he's all, man, I wish we took it, it would have been a good experience for directing. He's all, but it worked out, whatever. We made some money.
Okay.
Who knows what they could have... Maybe Warren Lincoln would have been in Psycho 3.
Oh, my God.
Maybe it would have been like... No.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Is this an interview where he talked about what scenes, the dramatic scenes that got cut early on?
No, he doesn't specify those.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's a lot of the... I would imagine it's more of... Well, I mean, I don't know. It could be more like of the... Because Michael's not in it that much at all, which,
thankfully,
a lot of people probably appreciate. But I bet it has more of the relationship with Jennifer and Michael.
Okay. I didn't need that then. I'm good.
I don't know. I'm just guessing, though. Who knows? But he said there was a lot of dramatic portions that were just cut.
Okay.
Because they did do a screening. I do remember in the interview, they did a screening that he went into. And, I think this is the actual, the 80-minute version that's out there. But he said that the audience seemed really into it. It was tense. It was moving along. But then the end credits, I'll get to that in the end. Okay, so let's talk about this movie.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to go ahead and spoil the twist.
All right.
Just so we can openly talk about it.
I think anyone by now, if they're still listening, if you haven't watched it.
Yeah. We've already talked about how terrible the copy is on YouTube. Everybody should have watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is an unintentionally great pick for this time of year because it's Father's Day.
Yes.
And the big twist in this is, there's a serial killer out there. He shows up at Mrs. Cortland's house while Jennifer's there. We'll talk about some of the scenes. He breaks in, he kind of hounds Mrs. Cortland. She sees this odd man in her house and everybody thinks she's crazy. he decides to just knock on the door. Jennifer opens the door and she's all, Dad, what are you doing here? And that's like halfway into the movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great twist. I didn't see it coming. I thought it was handled really well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, happy Father's Day to those, listening who have children or those who celebrate. I feel like this is a good Father's Day flick.
Yeah. That sucks too, because like, it doesn't suck, but like, if you were putting together like a Father's Day horror movie list and you put this on there, then it's a spoiler for it.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is a great pick for this time of year. So it's like, you only get it by accident.
Yeah. We'd be doing if we create a list, we'd be doing what New World did.
Yeah.
Just kind of, and that twist definitely shifts the whole perspective of the movie, which is something I appreciate completely. Because first we're just following this serial killer and we're seeing him get into the house and we're like, okay, who's he going to kill? Why? One of my favorite scenes is when he walks into the room and Jennifer's sleeping and he sees her and we don't know that he's her father yet.
Right.
And he's like moving into what looks like he might choke her, but he like fixes her hair. And then she starts waking up and he splits. But it's like, why didn't he kill her? Like, when is he going to kill Mrs. Cortland?
Mm-hmm.
Is he there to kill her? Is he there to kill Mrs. Cortland because he knows she's Michael's mom? Did he follow his daughter? Why is he there?
I think that might have been something that got cut because, it's clear like that's why he's targeting them, but there's never like a scene that confirms that. I think we just are left to assume.
Right.
He knows that stupid Jerry, what's his name in this?
Michael
is
Jerry, Michael,
whatever.
Warren, Lincoln. It's fine.
Is close to solving the case because he just got some big break on it, and which is why he canceled. And so if the killer knows that, then...
And there's a scene too where he sees he's watching Michael on TV and basically said, we're going to get this guy. We're getting there.
Yeah. So I think that spurs him to say, okay, well, if I'm going down, I'm taking this guy with me, or
right.
At least I'm going to get my revenge on the guy who's going to get me or thinks he's going to get me.
Yeah. That's how I interpret it too. Like maybe he's at that house. I'll kill him there. I'll kill his mom. And then he finds out his daughter's marrying this cop. He does mention in there too, when he starts talking to her, he's all, that's why I'm here. I need your help. I'm in trouble, So it is very confusing. But yeah, what would you consider the title Torment? Who's being tormented here? Is it the mother and future daughter-in-law? Is it Bob? Is Bob tormented by age and getting old? Because that whole beginning setup is an odd one.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite, I love the opening, but is Jennifer being tormented by both her dad and Mrs. Cortland?
I think
there's a lot of torment going on.
I think everyone in their own way is, but to varying degrees. So like if it was some sort of scale, I think Mrs. Cortland would be the one who's getting tormented the most. Although she kind of does it to herself because she has it so that the local cops have like a relationship with Michael and they're like, hey, can you go check on my mom? Every time she says someone's there kind of thing. So kind of boy who cried wolf type situation with her. So when it does finally happen to her and there is someone tormenting her, then it's understandable that they're like, yeah, okay, we'll check around. But I think she's probably got it. And then just slightly behind her would be Jennifer, because she's not necessarily being tormented by Michael, but like if Sarah is like, hey, go down and stay with my parents for a weekend without me.
I would not want to do it. I'd be getting tormented by Sarah and then by the in-laws.
Yeah.
But they did mention that they've canceled like 2 or 3 times before.
Sure.
It had to happen.
Yeah.
I would have to do it.
Yeah.
Jennifer had to do it.
She did. By the minute she gets there, her mom, the mom is not very welcoming. She's paranoid.
She literally has like a checklist at the table as she's asking her questions. Like, I love it.
Yeah. And then, I think Bob is tormented. He's clearly mentally unstable. And so like, as a given, like he's being tormented by like you said, his age, his mental health, like whatever it may be, I think it applies to everyone, just in varying degrees in this.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and Michael too is tormented obviously by the case.
He's tormented by being a shitty,
by being
actor.
A terrible actor. But yeah, I do love that. It's like the first 9 or 10 minutes or so. I think it's just fantastic. It does show Bob, like I think being tormented by getting old, because he calls into a radio station. He talks about how, when you're young, you got it all, and then he goes, there's a scene of him going out on a date, but she leaves with a younger guy. The guy calls him dad, and he flips out, follows them, and ultimately kills them both, shoots them both. Yelling at the guy, kiss her, do it, kiss her. He's such an emotional actor.
Yeah.
William Witt, you killed it. But that first 9 minutes or so kind of felt a bit like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer to me. The way it's poorly lit, the way it's kind of it's very grimy, it's very sleazy. And then the emotion and kind of realness from this William Witt that, it's, you don't get in a lot of movies. It's kind of just like low budget movies, really.
Yeah.
But I found, and it quickly establishes him as being a complete nut job, a serial killer. So I did love that. That was one of my favorite scenes. And it's such an odd portion because when you look at that scene and then look at the rest of the movie, it just doesn't really fit. I guess maybe I'm saying I could tell that it's shot in, it's a different location, but they were shot at different times because I feel like the energy I think is consistent, but I think it's different all throughout. I just like this movie seems to take so many different turns, different scenes.
I think so too. And I don't want to necessarily give it too much credit and say that was done purposefully, because I do think there's some elements in low budget filmmaking where tone can be all over the place. And in this case, it's fitting because we do have a lot of uncertainty and mental imbalance and things like that. And so the tone is like that, but I don't necessarily think they did that on purpose. I think it's just sort of
I agree. Yeah. I think, we probably have to applaud those 3 editors. And Sam Aslanian did say that, there are obviously a lot of Jennifer and Warren Lincoln. They were just actors that didn't have a lot of credits. They weren't experienced. Sure. But Eve Brenner and William Witt, being a theater teacher, he did say that we just stepped back and we kind of let them write their own script in a lot of their scenes. And they're the best parts in his mind. And I think that's why I enjoy it so much, are mainly for those 2 performances. I do love Jennifer. I always do this, but I usually pull who do these people look like? And, what does this remind me of? She reminded me a bit of a Veronica Hart character. I got deranged a little bit because her crazy dad, and she's going through what is happening.
No cow juice though.
No cow juice. Then the dad reminded me of a psycho Jerry Lewis. And then Mrs. Cortland reminded me of the actress Grace Zabriskie, who is Laura Palmer's mom in Twin Peaks.
Okay. Yeah.
And she just sells it. Eve Brenner, I thought, is so fantastic in it. But yeah, the scene where he starts singing, where Bob's singing Good Ship Lollipop.
Right.
I'm a good ship lollipop. And he starts crying and moaning. And Mrs. Gordon's like, why don't you shut the hell up? But he said, Aslanian said that all those scenes were just kind of freestyle. And I love how those characters just kind of, again, none of this stuff is intentional. It's the actors taking control, experienced actors taking control of the script and making it a lot better than it was probably written.
Yeah.
And these stilted scenes that were probably in the script, and they're just no, let's just have fun with it. And it's much better than what they probably intended.
Witt's performance in this is really what sells it for me, because there's a lot of movies sort of in this subgenre that I've said multiple times, I'm not a fan of. The Strangers, or what's the French one with the kid? Them, right?
Them.
I fucking hate that one too.
Yeah, me too.
So when you have something like this, when you have people who are supposedly isolated, this house is further out there. Mm-hmm. These 2 women trapped alone in peril. You have this sort of isolation horror, also trapped in a house horror, and to a certain extent, home invasion, because, he shows up at the door and while he is invited in, he is technically like uninvited.
Yeah, I mean, beforehand, he's definitely making his way into the house as he sees.
Yeah, and so having that type of tension in those situations, you have to have likable characters and good performances, which, you don't have in The Strangers because, sorry, Liv Tyler, I don't think you're... Anyway. What?
No.
You don't like that movie either.
I don't. No. I don't mind Liv Tyler so much. But
well, she's terrible in that movie.
Yeah. And then the other guy he's from Felicity, right?
Yeah, he was in the Underworld movies too. Yeah, they're
Scott.
Both
what was it?
Speedman?
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, they both. I hate that movie. And we get the backstory movies out now too.
Chapter 1.
Oh yeah, because we needed the backstory of The Strangers. Like, why are they doing this? We didn't. They answered that question literally in the movie.
I've seen it 4 times in the theater already.
Shut
up. I think it's terrible.
But yeah, I think there's a good way to. There's certain elements that you have to have for when you have limited cast, when you have isolation, horror, or home invasion, or things like that. Because you don't have this, big storyline of, you do have the murderer kind of going over certain places like San Francisco and killing people, but now you've narrowed it down to this one place. You have to have certain elements work really well, and you have to be invested in these characters or for them to at least be intriguing and you're interested in what they're doing. Yeah, and I have that with both sides of this, both with Whitman and Mrs. Cortland, and Jennifer to a certain extent too. I think she does a fine job.
Yeah, I think she does too. Absolutely, because there's other like women in peril movies out there. Mm-hmm. Of course, like Lady in a Cage, which again is pretty much a single location, and you have a great cast.
Yeah,
the young James Caan, who's just kind of losing his mind with the pantyhose on his head. Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte.
I've never seen that.
That one's pretty good. I saw it many, many years ago, but like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane again is, Victor Buono pops up in it and like Joan Crawford. I mean, great cast. And then the other like more recent kind of weird wheelchair bound women fighting for their life. Cult of Chucky. Yeah. Which is a great one. And then
Curse of Chucky too.
Curse of Chucky. Yeah. It's the same.
Although whichever one is in the house, I think Curse of Chucky is the one that's in the house.
Oh, is it? Yeah,
because Cult seems because Cult has the multiple Chuckies, I think. Anyway, I haven't seen them in a while. But Curse is like in the house, but it's like the whole family plus I can't remember the character's name, but Fiona Dourif is in a wheelchair, and so like I was actually going to pick the other one for that, but I was like no, because I already picked
You did. Yeah, you picked for the double feature. I picked
Cult of Chucky for double feature for another one. I'm like, I'm not going to do Curse of Chucky now.
Yeah, and then I have to say, this wasn't in Klon's list, and I'm very excited it was, but Alberto DiMartino's Formula for a Murder, which we covered, which is a great woman in a wheelchair kind of fighting, kicking ass. And that's what I love about Mrs. Cortland is she's perceived, the old woman the old lady who cried wolf. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks she's crazy. You feel bad for her because you're seeing what she's explaining happening to her. Right. And nobody else is believing her. Jennifer thinks she's like, there's something wrong with your mom. I walked in and she had a gun in her hand, But I love how in these type of movies, the tables usually turn, even like in Lady in a Cage, especially where they just are complete badasses and they kind of save the day. And Eve Brenner just sells that role so well. This is her show. I remember when we watched Scalpel many years ago, we covered it many years ago on the podcast. And I said, in all seriousness, based on this performance alone, Robert Lansing could be the greatest actor of all time.
You did say that.
I kind of get the same thing with the Eve Brenner. Like in this movie, I'm like, I'm looking at this performance. I've never seen her in any other movie or any of her thousands of. I never saw her in Doogie Howser.
You didn't seek out the Chicago Hope episode she was on, Lance?
She was like probably like the old lady on the street or something. Yeah. But I got that same feeling from Eve Brenner in this. I'm like, okay, she could be the best actress of all time. And then I look her up and I'm like, what? She does like the voice for an animated feature and in Strays, her part, I remember being really awesome. She's in the very beginning. Spoiler alert, cats just attack her and kill her. Yeah, I love her in this. And I got Robert Lansing vibes from Scalpel. Yeah, so I think we've already talked about a lot of our favorites, but do you have any other favorites or anything that pops out in this movie that or anything you didn't like other than Warren Lincoln?
Yeah. I know he's the only thing I don't like in this. And thankfully he's not in it very much, so it's fine.
He's not.
No, I think there was one moment when I think the cop shows up for like the second, maybe third time. Jennifer and Mrs. Cortland are like upstairs and they're like at the window banging, and he's walking up, and sort of speaking of isolation horror, it's this very shining moment where like Bob comes up behind him and sticks an axe in his back.
No, that's a great scene because this movie, it was made like in the boom of like slashers, but it's of its time because it does feel more like a 60s, 70s thriller, especially reading like the inspiration that Aslanian and Hopkins pulled from Alfred Hitchcock Presents. But there are scenes that are very like 80s slasher, and that scene gives me the feel of like, they're banging on the window trying to get the cop's attention, and he's slaughtered from behind.
Yeah.
It's something we've seen before.
Of course, yeah. It's coming. Like when you see him looking up and they're like, hey, and like, oh, the cop's here. And it's like, oh, he's going to show up and get him in the back. And there he is. Yeah, it's just another thing about Torment where there's so many cool different qualities going on. Like they feel like, I don't know, they just throw a bunch of my favorite things in. Well, yeah, it even though it's in the 80s height of, during the slasher era, there's so many comfort elements from older movies that we know and love, and so even if it is treading familiar territory in a lot of respects, I find that comforting. Yeah, same. As long as it's not like, as long as the performances are interesting and it's doing something a little bit different, then I'm fine with like, oh, I've seen this before kind of thing, because there's a fun twist in it that I didn't see coming. And yeah, the performances, like I said, that really just sort of sets it apart. I love it when Mrs. Cortland talks to the cops or about the cops and how she thinks they're, total imbeciles. Well, she's right. They are. They're slow as slugs. And Jennifer is like wheeling her to bed one night, and she's talking about like, oh, that officer seemed nice. And right away, without missing a beat, Mrs. Cortland is like, he's an ass. And then one of my favorite scenes, which has me scratching my head, and maybe it was cut, maybe it wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure this is intentional. But when Jennifer goes to get the car in the garage and she lifts it up, and it looks like it was in a head-on collision. It's destroyed. The dad destroyed it. And I'm like, how the fuck did he go and destroy that car so hardcore? Yeah. Like while it was parked in the garage. It's a mystery. It is a mystery. Yeah. So the ending, I started talking about it, but the director, Samson Aslanian, said they went to an early screening before it was sold, and the audience seemed to be having a great time with it. It was tense. They were kind of hooting and hollering during a lot of the scenes. And then when the end credits rolled, they started booing. And he's like, yeah, I wish we kind of, what he said, in retrospect, we should have gone through the floorboards with like a Terminator kind of ending where Bob just kind of kept coming back and stuff. And you get a little of that. Yeah. Especially to please an audience during that time, the mid to late 80s. Like I think they wanted something more horror-esque and more 80s slasher type. Sure. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a tense ending. I think because it's like 15, 20 minutes, the chase between Bob the killer, the dad and Jennifer and Mrs. Cortland. And they're all kind of planning. And what did you think of the ending? Did you enjoy it? I did. Like, I mean, it's more realistic. Every time you have one of those Terminator endings, it kind of takes you out of it a little bit, unless they're dealing with some sort of, supernatural killer element to it. So, I think I'm fine with it. I can understand why that audience booed, though. Right. Especially especially in 1986, probably. Yeah. It's probably a young audience, but. Okay, so I'd absolutely recommend this. I think the performances, we've already gone on and on about the performances. I think they're fantastic, especially knowing that they really didn't have time to rehearse their scenes. It was very kind of spur of the moment. I think Eve Brenner and William Witt saved the day. The twist is great. It's edited really well. Starting from the opening credits, I think it just kind of moves along really, really, really well. And except for the Golden Gate scene. I will acknowledge the editors like with their own comments about that scene. Okay, yeah. No, I respect that. Yeah, 100%. I do want to watch a better quality of this at some point. Yeah, for sure. Double features. I know we covered a lot of like the women in peril, the wheelchair horror. What would you lean? I was initially thinking about another sort of home invasion type movie that would also be fun just to say together. Mostly because I also have this sound clip from the trailer just saved on my laptop because every time I mention it, I have to put it in. And that's Torso!
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 Because it would be fun to be like, Torso and Torment.
Yeah, there you go.
But no, that's not my pick. Any of those other women in peril, home invasion type ones could work. I eventually, though, landed on a Meet the Parents double feature. And not the movie, Meet the Parents.
Oh, okay, not the
but
Fockers.
as a theme, yeah. I'm going with a movie from 1972 called You'll Like My Mother. This is starring Patty Duke. The son/husband is dead. He actually died in a plane crash in Vietnam. His wife is pregnant, and their courtship and their marriage was fairly quick. So she's pregnant and she's like, okay, my husband's dead. I need to go meet his family and talk to them. She tries getting a hold of them and nothing. So she just goes there to meet the mom, but she's not given like a warm welcome. And then she starts finding out that a lot of the information that her husband told her about his family was wrong. And she figures that like the mom is lying about a bunch of stuff. So a lot of weird stuff going on. I don't want to spoil too much of it. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember really liking it. Patty Duke is a lot of fun in this. It's always neat when you see those types of actresses in movies like this, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, Meet the Parents double feature. You'll Like My Mother, 1972.
Nice. I've never seen that.
What about you?
So Ryder, I think Lady in a Cage would be a perfect double feature from 1964.
Yeah.
But the first time I watched Torment, I watched it real quick, second time, but I immediately thought of Chuck Vincent's Bad Blood from 1988.
Yeah.
As I said when we talked about Bad Blood for a little bit in the Deranged episode back in March, I said it was one of my favorite new discoveries of the year for me. It still is here in the middle of June. So I love this movie. There are a few similarities with Torment, both taking place in an isolated mansion with a young married couple visiting a crazy mother. And the crazy mother is the main reason I'm picking this as a double feature. It's adult film star Georgina Spelvin playing the mom, and she's just acting on a whole other level, much like I think Eve Brenner is in this, stealing every scene she's in. Yeah, every moment on screen, you're just like, give me more of her. I mentioned too, I love the idea of these powerful yet kind of cranky, crazy old women, being seen as like the victim, but in the end, they're just kicking ass.
Yeah.
And in Bad Blood, she's kicking ass for completely different reasons.
Right.
But yeah, I think the performance from Brenner and Torment immediately made me think of Spelvin in Bad Blood. So I'm just going to go with that. A badass, crazy mom.
This double feature in a theater, if it were at Alamo, pre-Sony acquisition, would have the greatest pre-show. If Laird put it together. I'll give that disclaimer. Safe for Work trailer for Devil and Miss Jones and like all these like psycho biddy movies, and oh my god,
that'd be fun.
It'd be so good. Laird, if you're listening, put that together, please.
Do it.
Even though you don't have to actually program the double, but I want you to make that.
Just to have. I just want to watch it every so often. Yeah. We're wrapping up the month of June. That means our next episode's going to be a long one.
Yes, that's going to be our Junesploitation wrap up, where we go through all of our picks for the month. Depending on how my work week goes that week, we'll see which day it comes out, but it'll be the week of July 4th. So it might not be right on the 3rd, but it might be on the 4th or the 5th. So we'll see. But it'll definitely be that week. And it is going to be a long episode. And that'll get you prepared to watch a long movie, because that's my next pick.
Heck yeah.
So we are going to be watching a movie called Savage Hunt of King Stock from 1979. That's Stakh. And strap in, this movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes long. So we are ditching the 80-minute movies, folks. This is a mystical drama based on a story by V. Korotkovic. The film is set in an out-of-the-way Belarusian woodlands at the end of the 19th century. A young ethnographer, Andrei Byelorecki, comes here to research local folk legends. And yes, I just read the IMDb synopsis verbatim because we have an Unsung Horrors first. I have not watched this film yet, but it is getting a release from Deaf Crocodile next month. And I have absolute faith that I will at least like it, if not love this film, based on their track record. I've seen the trailer, which Deaf Crocodile put out a few weeks ago. There's a link for that in the show notes. This is directed by Valerie Rubinchik. And because I haven't seen it yet, it's going to be a little bit of a different kind of episode. And because Deaf Crocodile is putting it out next month, what better time than to have Craig and Dennis from Deaf Crocodile as guests on the show? So that's what we're going to have.
Perfect.
They're going to be on to talk about the film, their release of it, its restoration, special features, all the good stuff. That's going to come out the week of July 17th. So that's going to follow our June Exploitation episode. As of this recording, it has 645 views on Letterboxd. It's not streaming anywhere yet, but it will be available to pre-order on June 28th on Diabolic DVD. And many of their Deaf Crocodile releases have been showing up on Canopy with a K down the road, so you can link up your local library. So that's a possibility for down the road. I know we don't normally pick movies that aren't right away streaming for you to watch ahead of time. So this might be an episode for you to bank to listen to later on. Or if you don't care about spoilers and you just want to hear about Craig and Dennis talk about the release, then, have at it once it comes out. But yeah, that's going to be for our next regular episode in the middle of July.
I love it. Yeah, no, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think it's great picking a movie that has a Blu-ray release coming up.
Yeah.
It's more incentive to listen to beforehand and then decide if you want to purchase it, which everybody should pre-order it.
Yeah, I think so too. And so I'm really looking forward to this one, just based on watching the trailer and what Craig and Dennis have said about it so far to us. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm ready to sit down for over 2 hours.
Me too. After June Exploitation, a bunch of 80, 90 minute trash movies, let's get some high art in here.
Seriously.
All right. If you're not already, you can follow this podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors. You can follow me on Letterboxd, Instagram, and Twitter at Hex Massacre.
You can follow me on Letterboxd and Instagram at Schibi.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you back next episode for our June Exploitation wrap-up. Bye.
Bye.
I love my daddy. I love my daddy. I love my daddy. Yes, I do. Here's a kiss and a hug for you. Thank you, Daddy, for all you do. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. I love you. I love my daddy. I love my daddy. I love my daddy. Yes, I do. Here's a kiss and a hug for you. Thank you, Daddy, for all you do. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. I love you. Happy Father's Day. I love you.